Have you ever been so attracted to a man that you would do anything to be with him? I mean, really do anything? No matter how dangerous it is, what are you willing to do for love? That was the question facing Serenade James right now. She knew she shouldn't want this billionaire. He was twice her age. He was cold, arrogant, and controlling. And yet here she was, about to betray his wife, Juliet, in order to take advantage of their intimacy. It didn't feel right, but she wasn't doing it out of kindness. She had moved into the mansion to get back at Julian. She had to have everything, even if it meant betraying her best friend. Ever since Juliet married Julian, she had started to go downhill. They had been friends since college, but once Julian came along, everything changed. When she learned that he had proposed to Juliet, she had felt a pang of jealousy, which turned into bitterness when Juliet said yes. Her best friend was getting everything Serenade had ever wanted, all the trappings of wealth, all the admiration, all the attention. Serenade had hated Julian from the moment she met him. Not only was he cold and condescending, but he had also treated her dear friend badly, as if she were a possession rather than a person. But as time went on, Serenade had come to realize that Juliet wasn't exactly a doormat. She was just scared to upset her husband. Now, though, things were different. Juliet was going to leave Julian and move in with her sister instead. At least, that's what she told Serenade over the phone yesterday after finding out about Julian's infidelity. "You can't do this," Serenade had said, shocked. "He's not worth it." "I know," Juliet replied miserably. "But what am I supposed to do? I can't stay with him, but I can't afford to leave him either. I have nothing." And that was when Serenade had offered to help her. Not knowing what else to do, Juliet agreed to let her stay in the mansion. But now that Serenade was actually here, she realized it hadn't been a very well thought-through plan. This house was huge and expensive and lonely. Everyone who worked here seemed to be watching her. It had been like this from the first moment she stepped foot in the door. As soon as she entered the grand foyer, she had seen them, the eyes that followed her every move, the lips that whispered behind cupped hands. She had tried to ignore it, but they were persistent. She could feel their gazes boring into her even when she tried to distract herself by unpacking or making phone calls. One morning, while having breakfast with Julian, she had finally given in and asked one of the maids about it. "Don't you think it's odd, Mrs. Davies," she had asked, "that everyone here seems to know my business?" Mrs. Davis had looked at her strangely and then smiled cryptically. "People here talk, Miss James," she had said mysteriously before rushing away to finish polishing silverware. Now, sitting in the opulent bedroom, Serenade couldn't help but feel like a character in one of those cheap romance novels she used to devour. Here she was, the mistress in the billionaire's mansion, surrounded by luxury items, living in the lap of luxury. And yet she wasn't happy. In fact, she felt worse than ever. She missed Juliet terribly. She wondered if her betrayal had hurt her friend as much as it had hurt her own self-esteem. She knew she was being selfish, but she couldn't help it. This marriage had been a disaster waiting to happen. And now that it was happening, she was caught in the middle. All of a sudden, the sound of footsteps echoed down the hallway. Serenade froze. Could it be Juliet? She quickly hid the dress under her cardigan and took a deep breath to calm her racing heart. What was she thinking? Of course it wasn't Juliet. She wouldn't be here for another week. Besides, Julian would never allow it. Then the bedroom door opened and a tall, muscular figure stepped in. "Serenade," he said, his voice deep and resonant. "We need to talk." She knew that voice. Julian stood in the doorway, his face unreadable. "There's something I need to tell you," he continued. "Something important." Before Serenade could respond, Julian stepped into the room and closed the door behind him. He was so close now she could see the worry lines etched on his handsome face, the dark circles under his ice-blue eyes. Despite his wealth and power, he didn't look happy. In fact, he looked miserable. "What is it, Julian?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. He hesitated for a moment, then began to speak. "I haven't been honest with you," he admitted. "There are some things about me, about this marriage, that I haven't told you." She stared at him in disbelief. "Why? Why haven't you told me?" He sighed heavily. "Because I was afraid," he confessed. "Afraid that if you knew the truth, you wouldn't want to be here. Afraid that you would leave and expose my secrets to the world." Intrigue flooded her. "What secrets?" she pressed. "What haven't you told me?" He took a deep breath and began to pace the room, his expensive suit creaking with each step. "Juliet and I, we aren't really married," he finally said, his voice low. She gasped. "What?" she exclaimed. "Then why do you live together? Why do you act like man and wife?" He stopped pacing and turned to face her. His eyes were dark with pain. "Because people assume we are," he replied softly. "And because I couldn't bear to admit the truth." She stared at him, trying to piece together the puzzle of his strange confession. If they weren't married, then why did he keep her around? Why did he pay for her luxurious lifestyle? Why did he torment her with his unwanted advances? "Who is Juliet to you?" she asked hesitantly. "If you're not married, then who is she in your life?" He winced at her question as if it had struck a nerve. "She's my responsibility," he murmured, his gaze dropping to the floor. "I made her mother a promise years ago, a promise I feel compelled to keep." His answer only raised more questions in her mind. Who was Juliet to him? Was she just another conquest? Or was there more to their relationship than met the eye? As she continued to probe for answers, Julian's facade began to crumble, revealing the tormented man underneath. He spoke in hushed tones about his past, about a love that had consumed him and a vow he had made to honor that love no matter the cost. She listened intently, torn between her growing feelings for him and her desire to understand the complexities of his character. But as the night wore on, she realized that some secrets are too painful to uncover. When the conversation turned to Julian's past, she saw a vulnerability in him that tugged at her heartstrings. He spoke of a lost love with such tenderness and regret that she couldn't help but feel compassion for him. "I was young and foolish," he confessed, his voice cracking with emotion. "I thought I could protect her, that I could give her the world. But I was wrong. I lost her anyway." She reached out to touch his arm, surprised by her own sudden impulse. He flinched slightly at her touch, then slowly relaxed. "And what about now?" she whispered, her voice heavy with unspoken feelings. "Do you still love her?" He looked away, unable to meet her gaze. "I don't know," he murmured. "I think there's a part of me that always will." His honesty took her breath away. For a moment, she saw a glimpse of the man beneath the cold, calculating billionaire, a man who was capable of deep love and profound sorrow. She wanted to reach out to him, to comfort him, but she knew that she couldn't. Not only was she a mistress, but she also had secrets of her own, secrets that she feared would destroy him if he ever found out. As the conversation drew to a close, Julian rose from his seat and walked to the window. He stared out into the darkness, his shoulders slumped with defeat. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I never meant to hurt you." She shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. "It's not your fault," she whispered. "I should have known better than to get involved with you." He turned back to face her, his eyes searching hers. "You're not to blame," he insisted. "But I must warn you, Serenade. Some secrets are best left buried." His words hung in the air between them, heavy with unspoken meaning. She knew he was talking about the lies that bound them together, the lies that threatened to tear them apart. Suddenly, he took a step towards her, his eyes blazing with emotion. "I need you to leave," he whispered urgently, "for both our sakes. She stared at him, stunned by his sudden change of demeanor. What? Why? He hesitated, torn between his desire to protect her and his need to keep his secrets hidden. It's too dangerous here, he finally said, his voice hoarse. You don't understand the kind of trouble I'm in. Her heart sank at his words. Was this the end? Would he send her away? Erase her from his life as quickly as he had brought her into it? But what about Juliet? She asked, her voice trembling. What will happen to her? He closed his eyes as if in pain. I'll deal with her, he said quietly. You just get out while you still can. She searched his face, trying to read his emotions, but he was a mystery she couldn't solve. He reached out to touch her, his fingers lingering on her arm before dropping to his side. Please, Serenade, he whispered. Leave, and don't look back. As she watched him walk away, she felt a surge of emotions, anger, betrayal, confusion. How could he send her away like this? What did he expect her to do? She looked back at the bedroom door, the place where she had hidden her secret that tied her to this gilded cage of deceit. What was she going to do now?